Hey guys, this is Becca. So this is week 3 of my Adobe Creative Residency Community Fund Grant project. I am working on some visual development elements for a short film concept that I came up with. This week I worked on props and story beats, as well as the dreaded character turnaround. So one of the main props in my story is this tortilla basket that contains different items, different family heirlooms from the main character's Mexican side of her family. So in case you missed the first video about this, each object inside of the basket transports the character Karina to a very specific moment in history, in her family's history, that revolves around the given object in the basket. So I came up with a list of items based on my interviews that I had done earlier in the project with people who I knew who were Mexican American, and asked them sort of what objects they had in their homes and what objects were meaningful to them, and connected them with their Mexican heritage. And one thing that I knew I wanted to do was a Mexican rag doll, because that came up in a couple conversations, and they're just really, really beautiful examples of Mexican folk art. So if you look at the drawings, you can see that the first two are just directly drawn from reference, and then the rest are more explorational, where I'm adjusting the silhouette and the shape and the style. And the big challenge here is that I wanted to obviously maintain like the essence of the object, so it was clearly related to how they look in real life, but I also wanted to match the style and exaggerate in a way that added to the visual appeal of it and made sense with the character that I'd already developed, just in terms of the style. This is something I've struggled with in the past with props, is that I tend to focus very much on making sure that they're accurate and that the perspective is correct and that the proportions are accurate to real life, but in that way they're not actually terribly successful when you pair them with my other character drawings, because they don't feel like they exist in the same world. So what I was trying to focus on here was making sure that these drawings that I did, the props that I came up with, felt like they could exist in the same world as my character. I worked on another page of ideas for props and different objects within the story, and then I took a stab at color, which is sort of like my Achilles heel when it comes to art, I feel. But I really wanted to push myself and see if I could create sort of like some stylized colored props for this, since I'd never actually tried that before. The next piece I worked on was the story beats, and these are not in order at all. They're just sort of moments in time that I felt like were important in the story that I had constructed in my head. And I felt very excited at this point, because this is when I kind of started to feel like the story was really coming together, and the characters and the props and the storyline sort of started to make sense and really feel to me like it had more emotional impact. So this was very exciting. You can maybe try and guess what some of the different scenes are. Again, they're all out of order, but for me they were just sort of like, if I imagined taking various snapshots throughout the story, this is kind of what they would look like if they got all jumbled up. And last but not least, but definitely the least fun, the character turnaround. Guys, I spent so long on this, an embarrassing amount of time trying to get this to where it is now, and I'm still not happy with it. To give myself a little bit of credit, these are definitely better than attempts I've done in the past. The anatomy feels less janky, for lack of better terms. It just feels a bit more natural, but there's still some areas that are really like kind of irking me, especially the shoulder joints don't really make sense, and some of the like the rear 3/4 angle, it doesn't match the other ones, and I tried it so many times, but I just couldn't get it right. So this is a really frustrating exercise, but I think it's super important, and also for me it was really helpful to do this, and then I could look back at my gesture drawings and see why some of them maybe weren't feeling consistent. I could see where I had sort of lost the character, because once you have the character turnaround, you have a reference to use for other drawings. So very important and very frustrating, but there is some improvement here, so I gotta give myself a little credit for that. All right guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.